a perfect time to bring in trial attorney Alexis Rosenberg. Alexis, I mean, the state, I really think, has swung hard at the end, towards the end of its case here, because it has brought forward Jack Snyder, who was the driver of the vehicle, an eyewitness who had a no prosecution agreement to testify. And then we also have De Silva, another individual in the car, another eyewitness. They all go to school together at St. Joseph's, another no prosecution eyewitness, and now you have the girlfriend. Now, we haven't yet heard whether or not she has a no prosecution agreement in place or not, but tell me what you think as she's beginning to tell the story of what happened, starting with that first party.
I mean, the prosecution's going through the timeline, and I would be surprised if she had a no prosecution, because I don't think it's come out anything that she was actually involved in the fight or of that nature. But she is going step by step. But it is interesting. You bring up a very good point. Other than her, which at this point we're going to assume she doesn't have the no prosecution, the other witnesses do. So, you know, obviously, why were the jury's going to be thinking, why were they given that? What, you know, what are they hiding? Why were they provided that opposed to this particular defendant?
And, you know, Eric and I were talking about that last hour, and I'd love your thoughts, Alexis. I have so much respect for you and what you do. And it almost feels a little patently unfair, because here's what we do know. Both of those witnesses who have no prosecution agreements admitted and explained they didn't speak. They didn't tell law enforcement anything until their lawyers had this in place. And so they were silent for 6 to 7 months. They had lawyers from the get-go, and as soon as they got the lawyers, then they got the deal, and then they shared what they knew. So it almost feels like maybe law enforcement should have gotten a proffer or said, we need to know what you know before we actually give you this deal. I don't know if they did or not. That didn't come out in testimony. But then those two get the lawyer, and they're done. And a couple of days after the incident, we know Valley was arrested. Now, granted, Valley's the one that did the stabbing. There's no denial of that. He's saying it was self-defense. Does that make the difference?
To me, I agree with you, Judge Ashley. It seems extremely unfair that you have this group of boys, they're out drinking, they're young. Remember, they were 16 at the time. That's young. But they were together, and it does seem like a mob-type scenario. But yet, they are targeting this one boy, the defendant. And like you said, he was the one that allegedly was swinging the knife and actually committed that act. But these others were very instrumental. We have the individual who was driving the car who provided him with the knife. So it does seem a little unfair, as well as it seems convenient that they had lawyered up, and now it's like the last man standing. So it's going to be interesting how the jury views this.
We're getting into the heart of it, Alexis, but already, you know, what does it say to you that you have a witness who's saying she didn't want to be there? She knew everybody at the party. They're at a different high school now. However, she knows all these people. They're her friends. And she says, I don't want to get involved. I assumed there would be a confrontation.
It seems like she's leaving out some facts. I think she may have knowledge. There had to have been some discussion in that car, and she doesn't want to get involved, is what is coming across to me. I mean, she jumps in the back of the car as soon as they arrive. She's texting her sister. She obviously is fearful that this is really going to turn into a bad situation really quickly.
Yeah, she is, and I can't quite figure out, based on her testimony so far, excuse me, Alexis, why she thinks that, and if it's only in retrospect she thinks that because she knows what happened. So that's the next part of this. Cross-examination, I think the defense attorney's been doing a very good job picking apart, trying to destroy the credibility of the witnesses, which is his job. How would you attack cross of this witness?
I mean, at this point, she hasn't really said anything or testified to anything other than the timeline where people were sitting in the car. So it'll be interesting as to what he's going to attack, other than the positioning of the people, because she's not stating obviously that they're up until now that there's anything that he really necessarily needs to attack. I don't think he should be aggressive with her, that's for sure.
I don't think so either, but some of the little details bother me. So, for instance, on direct examination, I noticed that she said Lito was drunk. But then she says, well, everybody was drunk. I'm not sure if he was or not. I mean, there are little things like that that I think they're assumptions that riddle not just her testimony, but some of the other testimony as well.
Well, I think the fact, it sounds like they were all drinking, and yeah, he might want to question her about the fact that she doesn't really have the basis or what she's basing him on being drunk. But I think really the takeaway from that was more along the lines that they were all kind of drinking at that point. It was, we have underage drinking for sure, and so I think that was where we're going with that.